Today we're going to jump into section 1, the nature of the business, objective 6. So last time we looked at objective 6, but we only covered the sole trader versus the partnership, and we also covered companies where we compared the private limited company to the public limited company. Feel free to look at the other videos in order to catch up on those areas. But today we are going to look at the franchise. So we are going to look at the franchise or the franchising or the franchises. So we are going to discuss, you know, on a very surface level, what a franchise is and how it operates in a sense. So we're not going too deep. We're going to just look at the surface area, the CXC high school level. Look at a franchise. All right, so let's just jump right into it. So a franchise. What is a franchise? Franchises allow a local business to use an international brand. A franchisor owns the brand. Franchisee acquire rights to use the brand. Franchisor and franchisee are separate companies. Franchise license and contract governs the relationship between both of them. So this is a whole word salad right here. So we're going to break it down so that we can understand clearer what we're talking about. So the first thing, let's get this out of the way. Franchisor, franchisee. Who are what is a franchisor? Who are what is a franchisee? So a franchisor is a person that owns the brand. A franchisee is the person who acquires the right to use the brand. And so before we move on any further, let's look at some examples. Let's look at some examples of a franchise or of franchises so that you can have a clearer understanding as to what we're talking about. We don't want to deal in any abstract here. So I want to understand what we're talking about. So some of the most popular franchise brands out there, you have a lot of fast food restaurants. You have your KFC, you have your Subway, your McDonald's, your Pizza Hut, your Coca-Cola, your Pepsi-Cola, your Hyatt, your Four Seasons, your Marriott, your Hilton, UPS, Ace Hardware, Intercontinental, 7-Eleven. Those are some very popular brands, some very popular franchises out there. And so today we're going to lean a lot on KFC because I know for sure across the Caribbean you can find KFC in almost every island. Almost every island you can find a KFC. You can find it in Trinidad, Jamaica, St. Kitts, Antigua. Almost every island you can find KFC. Okay, so we are going to use KFC with some examples as we go on. All right, so let's start from the top. Allows a local business to use an international brand. So all these names I showed you, all these names that are on the screen, you would agree that most of these or all of these are international brands. Most of these brands or all of these brands did not originate in the Caribbean. They are international brands. You have KFC, Subway, all of them are found in the USA, outside of the Caribbean. So they're international brands. So a franchise allows a local business to use an international brand. What does this mean? It means that a local person living in one of the Caribbean countries, so a local person, or persons, or a local organization, a local business, that is operating from, let's say, Trinidad, Jamaica, anywhere, but on the ground, local, domestic, they can acquire the rights. They, who are the franchisee, can acquire the rights to use the brand of the franchisor. So the franchisor is the person who owns the brand. For example, KFC, the person who owns KFC, the person who came up with the idea of KFC, they own that brand. They own the KFC. They own the logo, the recipe, the layout, everything. They own KFC. They are called the franchisor. The franchisee is the local man, the local woman, the local organization who is trying to start a business and chooses to use the brand, the logo, whatever, the rights of that company. So if I, who live in a small island, wants to open a fast food restaurant, I can go to KFC, the owners of KFC, and say, okay, I would like to open a fast food restaurant in my island. Can you give me the rights to use your name, your brand, your recipe, your layout, everything that comes with your organization. Can you allow me to use that to start a business in my island? Of course, it's not free, as we're going to discuss later on. You have to pay some significant funds in order to obtain the rights to use the brand. You have to pay upfront and you have to pay continually. You have to keep paying the royalties for using the brand. So yes, so allows a local business to use an international brand. That's a franchise. So you should not confuse a franchise with a multinational. Do not confuse a franchise with a multinational. A multinational is a company that has their headquarters somewhere, but they have branches elsewhere. Okay, you understand that? A multinational is a company such as, let's say, Microsoft, Apple. Let's look at Scotiabank, for example. That's a multinational. You have your branches in Jamaica, Trinidad, St. Kitts, Antigua, but you have the branches across the region. Those are just branches. But there's a headquarters somewhere else, the main headquarter. So a multinational is a company that has branches in different areas, but they have a central area, a headquarter. For example, you have Microsoft. Microsoft might have, a Microsoft store in New York, a Microsoft store in Tokyo, Hong Kong, wherever. But the headquarters for Microsoft is, of course, in Seattle. The headquarters for Microsoft is in Seattle. The headquarters for Google and Apple is in Silicon Valley, but they have different branches around the world. So that's the key difference between a multinational. Well, one of the key differences between a multinational and a franchise. In the franchise, a local person acquires the rights to use an international brand. And you have to understand this: the franchisor and the franchisee are separate companies. So the KFC that is operating in Jamaica is separate from the KFC operating in Trinidad, operating in the US, operating in Barbados, operating in Antigua. They are separate entities. They just have the right to use the brand of KFC, the logo, the brand, the recipe, everything of KFC, but they are separate companies. But the Scotia in Jamaica is a branch of a bigger organization, a bigger company. So that's a key difference you should remember. So let's get back to the franchise. So a franchisor or the person who owns the brand, and the franchisee is the person, the local man who is trying to acquire the rights to use the brand. The franchisor and the franchisee are separate companies. As I explained just now, they are separate. So there are no connection between a Western Union, let's say, in St. Kitts and a Western Union in, let's say, maybe Trinidad. The main connection would be the fact that they are franchises. All right, so that's one of the key differences. All right, so franchises license and contract governs relationships between the franchisor and the franchisee. What does this mean? You cannot just up and decide to do whatever you want with the people's brand and the people's recipe and the people's logo and the people's color scheme. You can't just up and do what you want. You have to work according to the license agreement and the contract. So if the license agreement say the logo should be red, then you have to make the logo red. If the license agreement say you need 3 bathrooms in your establishment, then you have to make sure you have 3 bathrooms in your establishment. If the license and contract say you have to pay $10,000 per quarter to maintain the name of that brand, then you have to pay $10,000 per quarter to keep using the name. If the contract say if you have a health violation, you would be stripped of the right to use the brand, and you have a health violation, then you're not going to be able to use the brand. So all of the intricate details are governed by the license and the contract agreement between the two parties. You have to follow what is said in the contract, or you cannot use the brand to conduct business. So again, these are examples: Coca-Cola, Pizza Hut, McDonald's, Ace Hardware, UPS, Hilton. All these are examples of franchises. So it's not just fast food alone. Okay, Hyatt, hotel chains, Four Seasons, Marriott, those are franchises also. All right, you have President Trump, and you have a lot of Trump hotels all over the place, Trump golf courses. Those are just using his name. They're not really his per se. So yeah, so these are examples. There are tons and tons more. In Jamaica, you have Juicy Patty. You have other in Trinidad. You have various other franchises that people can use across the region, across the country. So you have your domestic ones, you have your international ones, but the international ones are the most popular ones out there. All right, so let's look at some advantages and disadvantages of a franchise, and we're going to look at it from three points of view. All right, three perspectives: from the franchisee, the franchisor, and the customer. Remember, the franchisee is who? The franchisee is the person who acquires the rights to use the brand, and the franchisor is the person who owns the brand. So let's start with the person who acquires the rights to use the brand. Let's say me, for example, I want to open a fast food restaurant and I go and acquire the rights to use KFC. So what are some advantages for me? One, can use an international brand. Two, receives advice and training. And three, startup is fast. So let's go from the bottom to the top. Startup is fast. So again, I want to open a restaurant, a fast food restaurant. Now, I can either start from scratch and, build my own premises, get my own name, have a big marketing campaign to try and get my name out there, all of those things. Do the market research on my own, all that. That's a lot of work. That's kind of tough. But an easier way, fast startup would be to just go and say, okay, I would like to open a KFC. Here's my money. Can I have the rights? Boom, done. Okay, it's fast. You just pay the money and they would come and help you set up and everything like that. So startup is fast. You don't have to have spent too much money on marketing. You don't have to go and wonder how to design anything. You don't have to go and wonder how the recipes should be, the layout, anything. All that it would be in the package that is given to you after you would have paid the necessary money. So startup is fast, faster than the others. It's a ready-made business in a sense. It's already there. The brand is already recognizable. So it's there. Receives advice and training. So after you would have paid your monies and sign a contract and stuff like that, you are going to get advice and training from the franchisor. So the franchisor is going to advise you as to how the place should be laid out, how the chicken should be cooked, how the logos should look, how the menus should be designed. They're actually going to help you, train you in the ways of how they do business. For example, I don't know if you ever heard about the McDonald's University, but people actually register, attend McDonald's University to try and learn how to run a McDonald's. These are some of the training and advice offered by the franchisor of the McDonald's brand. You can actually, if you're a franchisee, you can come into a McDonald's University and learn the ways of the McDonald's. So that's an advantage right there. Next one, can use an international brand. So that's one of the most significant reasons why people want to go the route of a franchise, because the brand is already established. You don't have to work overtime to get the name out there. It's already there. It's established. Everybody know KFC from north to south, west to east. You go China, there's KFC. You go Europe, there's KFC. Caribbean, there's KFC. The USA, of course, there's KFC. So the brand is internationally recognized. So you are able to use a already established brand as your own business. So to me, that's a huge advantage as opposed to have the little, your little domestic brand restaurant or fast food joint that nobody really hear about, and you have to spend a lot of money to try and get the name out there. Tourists come and they see your name, like, what is that? I don't know this, but tourists come, they see KFC, they know exactly, okay, KFC chicken, spicy barbecue, whatever, popcorn chicken, they know exactly what to expect. Okay, they know what to expect. So disadvantages though for the franchisee: regular payments to the franchisor, loses some sense of independence. You lose some independence in running the business, and basically, from what you've heard me say so far, you would pick up you would lose some independence. You can't do as you like with the people's brand. You can paint a KFC black, or you can paint a KFC blue. They already have the red and white scheme, and you have to follow it. You can't just have a KFC with a layout, a clustered layout. They have a layout they expect you to see. You can't have a menu looking all raggedy and stuff like that. They have a way they want the menus to look. So you lose some of the independence in how you operate the business. So that's one disadvantage. If you have your own restaurant, your own fast food thing, you do whatever you want. You get a mascot if you want, you do what you want. You have the specials, you have this, you have the menu, whatever you want to do, you do. But if it's a franchise, you are guided by the agreement in the contract or the licensing agreement. You're guided by that. You stray too far from that, and they will pull the rights for you to use their brand. So you don't want that to happen. So you have to abide by their guidelines. Regular payments to franchisor. Remember I said earlier, it is not a free lunch. You have to pay a significant sum of money in order to use their brand. And you still have to pay regularly. Based on the agreement, you might have to pay quarterly or annually. Whatever the setup is, you still have to keep paying a chunk of change every time. So whether you make a profit or a loss, you still have to find the money to pay the people to use their brand. Or else, if you cannot come up with the cash, they are simply going to take away the rights for you to use their brand. So you have your fast food joint that was KFC before, they take away the rights, then you have your generic fast food restaurant out there. So you have to keep paying. So it's an ongoing process. So those are the advantages and disadvantages of a franchise from the perspective of the franchisee, the person who wants to start a business who acquires the rights to use an international brand. Now let's look at some advantages and disadvantages from the perspective of the franchisor. So for the franchisor, of course, one advantage, you can enter new markets. You can enter new markets. Companies that started out in America with the American way of doing things, they can now expand into new areas, new markets, because their brand has become so recognizable that people overseas want to use their brand. So you can take that opportunity to expand your name into other markets. For example, when Starbucks rose to prominence, Starbucks is a coffee joint, they make coffee and stuff like that. Then in China, people started acquiring a taste for Americanized stuff. So they want the Starbucks there. So all of a sudden, you can expand into the Chinese market. You can expand into the Indian market. You can expand into the European market. If you're KFC, if you're McDonald's, expand overseas. Expand, of course, you see it in the Caribbean. You see KFC, McDonald's, Burger King, Domino's expanding into new markets. So that's an advantage for the franchisor. Could you imagine getting into the Chinese market, 1.4 billion people, in the Indian market, 1.3 billion people? That's a lot of people. That's a lot more recognition for your brand. So that's a major advantage. Our next advantage is the franchisor gains from the franchisee's local knowledge and hard work. So the franchisee is the person on the ground, the local person, the Jamaican, the Trinidadian, the Kititian, whatever. They are the ones who are the franchisee and they want to start their business. Now the franchisor now has someone with a working knowledge of how the local population operates. Okay, a good example is this. Even though you have KFC in Jamaica, Trinidad, St. Kitts and those places, the menus might not be the same. You might not be able to get, like in St. Kitts, you can get 2 pieces of breast, spicy breast, and you're good. In Jamaica, you cannot really go and order 2 pieces of breast. They're going to tell you, no, they can give you a breast and maybe a leg, a breast and maybe a wing. Different things, different stroke, different folks. But you only know this because you're on the ground. Again, in Trinidad, you can in St. Kitts, you can buy, your barbecue chicken. In Trinidad, not so much, or at least the last time I was there, barbecue what? They have different menu items to match the local taste. So if the locals love spicy food, of course your menu is going to have the spicy food. But you only know this based on knowing local information. I gave you the example of Starbucks before. When Starbucks tried to expand in China and places like that, they were met with some resistance because not everybody in the East tend to, enjoy coffee as much as the West. What they love is their tea. So Starbucks had to kind of change up because you know over there is tea, here is coffee, so you have to localize. So the franchisor is able to localize their menu in order to match the local uh, market. Now, disadvantage for the franchisor, a very big disadvantage. If a franchise is badly run, the brand will suffer. The overall brand will suffer. So if I go to a KFC and I see a rat, what I go back and say? I went KFC and I see a big rat in KFC. No, they ain't gonna ask, which KFC or whatever because you're just here in KFC. You might even stick around to know, okay, it's just this one over here that's being poorly managed. Once you hear KFC, food plus rat, trouble. So the brand will take a hit for that. Even if it's KFC in America, you hear on CNN, a KFC was found with, poor health standards, E. coli in the lettuce or something like that. All KFCs might get that bad rap and as such might suffer. So that's a disadvantage right there. If there's a badly run franchise, that can affect all of the franchises. It can bring down the value or the name recognition of all the franchises that carries the same name. It doesn't matter that it's a different management team or whatever. Once you hear something bad about one franchise, it can affect all. So that's a major disadvantage. So let's look at disadvantages for you, the customer. One advantage, international standards of goods and services, meaning because the franchises tend to operate on a global scale, they would have standards, quality standards that matches the global scale. They would have standards that might supersede what you have on a local scale. Because what might go for a local fast food joint or a local fast food restaurant might not go on an international standard. You might not have any bathrooms, or you might not have your fridge chill at a certain temperature, and you might have certain health hazards there on your own, local level. But internationally, you have to maintain a certain standard, or else they're going to pull the rights to use their company from you. So when you go into that establishment, you're expecting an international standard of goods and service. You don't expect to go into KFC and get a poor reception, because they have set international standards. You go in, you're met with a smile, whatever, whatever, and so international standards. So that's a plus for the customers. But a disadvantage that is very, very prevalent and obvious in the Caribbean is the fact that you may lose local variety and choices. Because right now, the Eastern Caribbean is suffering from obesity. One of the key causes is the consumption of so much fast food. Where did they come from? Their franchises coming from the international market. That's not our local flavor. That's not our breadfruit. That's not our sweet potato. That's not our yam and cassava and stuff like that. That's not our saltfish and ackee and saltfish. That's not our roti. That's not our, bus up shot and things like that. That's the international fast, cheap food that's coming in to clog up our arteries. So you gone to the restaurant, you can't find your, like I said, your yam, you can't find your fish, you can't find nothing because they are catering on a international level. So that's a major disadvantage for us, the customers. We might lose our local identity, might lose our local options and variety as it relates to food and drink. You don't have the local drink no more, a nice lemonade, a nice passion fruit, or dragon fruit, or whatever. Instead, you have your Sprite, your Coke, your Pepsi, your whatever. So a major disadvantage for the customer is you may lose local variety and choices. So that's it for the franchise in a nutshell. As you can see, very simple, very straightforward. The franchise, you know them, they are popular in your eyes. So now you have a little understanding of why all the KFC have this, or all the Subways have that, because that's how a franchise work. You have to be almost uniformed. You can have your own way. All right. So one thing before I end on franchise, don't think that because you are opening a franchise, don't think that because it's a recognizable brand that you're guaranteed success. You don't think you're guaranteed success. It is not a done deal. You still have to put in work. You still have to manage competently. or else the company, the business would fail. If you're not up to standards, they're gonna yank the rights from you, and the company can go under. So don't feel that because it's a franchise, okay, I open in a KFC, it must succeed. Nah. Because I don't know. Experience have shown me that in the Caribbean, you might see a franchise open just to close a few months later because one, it might not be to the local liking, what they're offering might not be what locals eat, and two, they might not operate competently. Like I said before, the franchisor and the franchisee are separate companies. Okay, they are separate companies. So you still have to run your local franchise with smarts, or else it's going to fail. Okay, so that's about it for the franchise. And I think that should basically cover the key sections from 6. We looked at sole trade, we looked at partnership, we looked at companies. I would do a video on cooperatives if the comment states, but the major ones have been covered. So we will, unless otherwise stated, we will be going on to objective 7, which is to differentiate among the types of economic systems. So that would be in the next video. So if you want to make sure that you're up to date on these videos, make sure you subscribe to this channel and make sure you click the notification bell so that you can know when a new video drops. I'll try to do them as fast as possible because I know CSEC is around the corner. And so if I can help in any way, then that's my aim here, to try and help in any way I can to get you those ones and those distinctions in CXC. All right, so stay tuned for more videos.